Show me all the blueprints. It's a huge success.
I came across a really, really interesting business opportunity.
Beyond the Blueprints. Hi, it's Kaylee Heaps, and welcome to Beyond the Blueprints. Today I'm talking to my great friend, Kristine Hubbard, who runs Beck Taxi. We talk about everything from how our girls met when they were 5 years old, to business in this city and policy, as well as travel, marriage, you name it, we cover it. Take a listen. Let us know what you think. Hi, Kristine Hubbard. How are you? Welcome to Beyond the Blueprints.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. So Kristine and I first met when our girls were 5, I guess it was, senior kindergarten.
Yeah.
And we met because they both came home and said they had made a friend at school who they were going to one day marry each other, not shave their legs or armpits, have a vet clinic, and sell candy.
Sounds about right. Yeah, that's exactly what they said.
And to this day, they're best friends.
They are best friends.
Yeah, they had moments where they were always close, but they weren't always together. Mm-hmm. And we are leaving later this week on their grade 12 grad trip in Cancun.
I don't have anything to say about that. I still can't believe this is happening.
I know. There'll be 200 of us.
That's right.
And we'll all make it back alive. If we don't, this video content will be worth a lot.
Exactly. That's right. I'm slightly terrified. I think it's going to be okay.
I think it'll be fun. So Kristine you essentially run Beck Taxi. Is that fair to say?
It's probably
no one's going to get mad at me for saying that.
No one's going to get mad at you for saying that. But yeah.
It's a family business. So your mom and dad worked in the business. Your grandparents worked in the business. Your grandfather worked in the business.
Started it. He was Jim Beck. He was a taxi driver and started with a small fleet of taxis in another company and decided he could do it better.
Amazing. And then your mom sort of took over and your dad was a taxi driver.
That's right. So my mom took over. She first owned a children's clothing store in Sarnia. A little bit of trivia.
Wow.
Yeah. So my brother and I used to walk the runway at the Lambton Mall. And,
wow.
And then in 1985, after her father passed, actually, she went back to the business. And she's been running it ever since and turned it from, almost nothing to, the largest in North America.
The largest taxi company in North America.
That's right.
And you have taken over sort of running the company because your parents are an age where they're enjoying some time away and being grandparents.
That's right.
What is the biggest... let's just elephant in the room.
Yeah.
So everyone knows always like, oh my God, I feel so badly for them. Uber's probably sinking them. My understanding is it's the exact opposite.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay, so
we're
tell
doing
us.
well.
Yeah.
I mean, I think some of our traditional competitors wouldn't have the same answer.
Yeah.
We introduced the Beck Taxi app before Uber came to Toronto, and we had already, hundreds of thousands of downloads before they arrived.
Amazing.
Yeah, and it was just, something we knew that they were coming. I was actually with Nathan in San Francisco in 2011. We saw at a taxi convention of all things. I had never been to anything like it.
Who knew?
Right. And so in this conference center, we're looking down at the street. I'm going, is anyone noticing these cars are picking up people and they're not taxis? While everyone was complaining about all of these sort of legacy issues that existed. Well, it was as soon as we got back to Toronto, we developed and introduced the Beck Taxi app.
Amazing. Good for you. And what I say to people in defense of Beck Taxi, because we're good friends, is I say I actually think it created an opportunity because all the smaller companies are gone now. So you've taken over pretty much every corporate and government taxi contract.
So, we have a few smaller companies that are still around and they rely heavily on those contracts. So we certainly have the vast majority. Yeah. But the thing that has been the secret to our success actually more is, taking Granny to get her hair done. Yeah. And taking people to the grocery store and to work every day. So we've not concentrated on those contracts probably as much as some of our traditional competitors had. And I think that's been kind of the secret to our success, building those relationships with drivers too, which has,
there's a lot of trust in your people and brand.
Right. And I think it has kind of, we've been able to stand apart from the crowd for that. Yeah. Building a lot of trust and a community with the drivers too has helped.
Amazing. Yeah. I know we used back when my mom was ill and she had her chemotherapy treatments. She was like, I will only take a Beck Taxi to and from the hospital. Most days I drove her, but if ever she got stuck, that's what would happen. Okay, transitioning from that, when I met you, I was intimidated by you because you have a very direct and strong way of speaking, which I admire now that we're friends. At the time, I was terrified. But you've become a bit of a voice in the media about Toronto and some of the issues our city faces.
Where do you want to start?
Like, actually, where do you want to start? What's the biggest issue, do you think?
I mean, I think the overarching issues are obviously housing, traffic and congestion, road safety, things, of course, that are closer to the work that I do. Again, the road safety piece, and traffic. We just seem to be, in our industry anyway, as far as our regulator and as far as the city goes, every rule they've made has been in complete conflict with lowering emissions and improving the environment, in complete conflict with reducing traffic and congestion. So it's been a very, it's been an interesting, going through the process of being sort of a wide-eyed sort of, we can work together and build this great thing, to realizing, no.
Yeah, what you say is not what you do.
Not what you say. Yeah, what you say is not what you do.
I don't mean you. I mean from a government perspective.
You're 100%. And it's just a very, and somehow the punishment continues, because you think, okay, well, I can't not try.
Yeah.
I have to try. So that's where it's been. And it's been kind of a long, bit of a hamster wheel of disappointment.
Yeah.
But, it's not new. Yeah. And I think, in terms of Beck Taxi in particular, we've succeeded in spite of this city.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I would say the biggest issues our real estate market has faced, certainly in my time working in real estate, are all essentially driven by poorly informed policies that the government has introduced that contradict completely what they're saying.
This is it.
Yeah.
This is what we find too. And it's just really, and I understand, just to give some grace to the people who are making those decisions. Very often it's the unpopular decision that has to be made, or maybe it's the one that might cause some controversy, and you may lose some votes. But, we need people who are going to stand by their convictions and understanding what I think the bottom line in all of the issues that we've just talked about is putting people first, and the humanity that is connected to all of these issues. The idea that a single mom might not be able to afford to rent a 1-bedroom apartment, even in this city, is unbelievable. It's unbelievable.
And we're going to miss out on that, middle working class, single couple.
That's right.
So you said something there that hit me. In my personal life, that 2024 has not been my most favorite year so far.
It's still early. Lots of time to fix it.
Here's hoping. If there's any energy out there, workers out there, you know how to find me. But something that you said resonated with me is that, and I'm going to paraphrase, I think that there's a whole generation of people who don't know how to have hard conversations. They're not willing to have hard conversations.
That's right.
And I think it's the scariest thing I'm witnessing amongst, I don't want to actually limit it to one generation, because I've seen it amongst all different age groups. But how do you make people comfortable to have hard, I know your girls are very comfortable having hard conversations.
Yeah, I think, when it comes to my kids in particular, I think I've never spoken to them like they're babies.
Yeah.
There's always been this honesty. And, it's kind of with my kids, if they ask a question, I'm going to answer it. Yeah. And I think that, matter of fact, sort of not trying to sugarcoat things but also not trying to scare them, because I think there is a fine line. But it's not a big deal unless you make it into one. And I think that's been kind of the rule that we have chosen to apply here, or I have. Let's openly talk about it. There's no sort of, consequence to that. It's only, the consequences come when you go the wrong direction after we've had the conversation, right?
Yeah.
That's what the purpose of the conversations are for, is to try to steer your kids in the right way, hoping that they're going to make good decisions. But I do find those long drawn out sort of, and not necessarily with my kids, but with people in general who avoid those difficult conversations, life just becomes more difficult.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the longer you take and taking sort of the easy way out, you're just building up. Now this conversation includes all these other things that we didn't need to deal with before. And I just, I'm very much, I think a lot of it, this may sound not insensitive, but I don't have time for dancing around issues.
But it's also, I think it's very respectful to be able to have a hard conversation with someone.
And people want to know, you know what I think? I want to know. If I'm, if there's something I can improve on, I don't want to wait and keep making that mistake over and over again until the person I'm working for or with is so frustrated that, an avalanche has to come down. Yeah. I think that, sort of a nip it in the bud. Like there are so many one-liners that can, that are actually quite, useful when it comes to, and it's not a difficult conversation, again, unless you turn it into one.
I agree. And it's how you frame things. Like I would say if I'm trying to give advice to a team member and it's perhaps not advice they want to hear, but you just say, for your personal development, this is what I hope you can achieve in the next month. And then you outline those items. It's all about growth. It's about getting better. But what I find interesting is a lot of men, I find, have a hard time speaking with total honesty to women. They feel that we can't handle it.
Right.
And I find that so insulting.
Yeah. I mean, I would say that in my business, it's not even just a male-dominated industry. It's a man's world. So, I've been lucky enough to have a fantastic role model in my mom. Mm-hmm. She is really the one.
Gail's a firecracker.
Oh, man, look out.
Yeah.
But she is the one who, again, completely immersed in a man's world, completely underestimated. And in her case, and what she'll tell you is that was the best thing that could have happened to her.
Yeah.
Because people disregarded her ability to maybe make some change.
Silent killer.
Yeah. And that's it. And it's a huge motivator. Yeah. And she lifts her head up one day after working for 20 years straight, and she's got a fleet of, 2,200 vehicles and drivers who, they work together. She doesn't ever have to worry about, not getting into a Beck Taxi because the driver may be unhappy with something she's done.
Oh, yeah.
It's, hey, my son's getting married. Do you want to come to his wedding?
I've got to say, having gotten into many Beck Taxis with you, I am always amazed that you always personally know the driver. They always know you. There's always some history, their kid or their wife or their something. It's wild.
It's the best part of my job. And I think that just, it's, I think too, back to the difficult conversations, people know who you are. Yeah. They know where you're coming from. And so, and there's also the idea that you have a team. Yeah. And if we're protecting the team and you want to be part of that team, this is what we have to do to get you to that place. Yeah. And on behalf of everyone else who I'm working hard for, or you're working hard for, your job is to make sure that everyone is, sort of doing what is expected or doing things in the most efficient or effective way. And I think when people realize that you're coming from a place of success, overarching success, it doesn't have to be difficult because no one doesn't understand that that's what you're trying to achieve.
Yeah, and the hard work, the success wasn't just handed to you, it's hard work.
Oh, it's hard work. It's hard work.
When you look at your girls, who I won't obviously say too much because we don't know how many millions of people are going to view this, but they are at an age where they're young women now and embarking on their lives. Mm-hmm. If you could give them one piece of advice, what would it be?
Try. Just try.
That's good.
Yeah, I think, and that's conversation, and it's funny because it applies to so many things again. I'll say to one of my daughters, hey, you just make that call and see if you can arrange this or that. Oh, no, Mom, they don't do it that way. Just try. Yeah. Can't you just try? And I think that's a thing, maybe for me is even more difficult than the issue of the younger generations maybe not being able to have those difficult discussions. It's this, on the one hand, we talk about how brave everyone is, but on the other, the reality is they're so afraid they don't even want to try. Yeah. And that to me is probably, if there is one thing, please just try.
And what do you think makes them afraid? Is it because everyone's watching? Is it because social media means everything lives on forever? Is it?
I think it's a combination of those things. I think it's social media. I think it's also just fear of rejection. Yeah. I think our kids have been told yes. Like I'm really good at saying no. Yeah.
So yes, you are. I can attest to that.
Yeah. And whether it's, partially because of a lack of time. Yeah. It's no. So I think generally speaking though, our kids hear yes so much more than we did. Yeah. And, people are hearing, no problem, no
Participation
problem.
awards, you're going to work for showing up. I actually I now sound repetitive because I spoke about that this morning. But that's something you and I have talked about.
It's tough. Yeah. It's tough because you know what? World works. It's such an important lesson to lose. Yeah. It's such an important lesson to understand what it means to lose and how important it is to come back from a loss and try again. And, they can only say yes, and they meaning in any situation, if you ask. Yeah. And if you don't try, you'll never know. Yeah. And I think knowing the answer is no, or that you've lost, or what you can do differently to succeed next time, the trying thing and the fear of being told no, they just don't know how to do it. Yeah. So we have to teach them.
Yeah. So the advice to just try, is that the same advice you would have wanted to hear when you were 21?
I did not. No, I think my entire upbringing was, I don't even think it had to be said explicitly. I think that was just an understanding.
Yeah.
So like my dad was a taxi driver, but this is not related to driving. He would say, when in doubt, go out. That was his sort of, that's what he would say. And again, watching my mom, the work she did, the success she, I wouldn't even say enjoyed. She still hasn't really enjoyed it. Yeah. She's only just getting to that place in her 70s, starting to think about travel, or, if she's in this country, she's still in the office.
Wow.
Yeah.
This might be a delicate one because I've worked in family businesses. How is it to work in a family business?
Impossible.
Yeah.
Impossible. It only, it's only even, happening because, you just remind yourself how impossible the situation is and that you just have to carry on.
Yeah.
I think it's very, very difficult. I understand why companies, end up moving, whether they fail or they're sold or what have you after second or third generation. I'm third generation management of the company. I have not even proposed to my kids that they have a chance of participating.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I always say to my kids, by the time you decide what you want to do, this won't be an option. I'm not giving you a company. And I shouldn't maybe say that because I worked with my mom to build this company, but I just want them to have their own passions.
I think that's it. And I mean, I look back at myself. I was 15 years old when I begged my parents to let me work at Beck Taxi. Yeah. At the dinner table, pretend you're the customer and I'm the call taker. Oh. Good afternoon, Beck Taxi. And I would have them pretend. And I said, please just let me work. I just want to work. There's, fine. They let me. And then I'm the only, 15-year-old or 16-year-old at 7:00 in the morning, like basically crying in my Cheerios going, what have I done? None of my friends were working. But
right done.
And I worked my way up. It was like, you'll be working nights, you'll be working weekends,
that I know you were never just handed anything. You worked.
Yeah. And it was important to me not to be the boss's daughter.
Me too.
Right. And I don't want that for my kids either. And they are already past the age of 15. They're already past the age of 16, 17, that for them to come in is going to be not hard, but I want them to have more experience outside and stay in school. I did as well, but to have their own passion, like you say. Yeah. And maybe Beck Taxi is their passion, but
they can figure that out
later.
Not
yet.
Yeah.
Not yet.
I worked for my dad at his brewery when I was how old was I? I was in grade 12, so 17. And he said, I'll give you a job, but it's going to be the worst job there.
Yeah.
And you're going to have to work twice as hard as the person beside you if you're going to keep your job. So he put me on the bottling line, which means you take empties and you put them on the washer and you find disgusting used condoms.
Oh, nice.
Cigarette butts, gum. Oh my God, it was horrible. But I worked my way up.
You worked your way up.
Yeah.
Well,
I think it's that grit, that teaches you how to succeed.
Oh, when I was working with dispatchers when I started, they'd light their next cigarette with the one they were finishing and then put it out.
Ugh,
it was such a different
Sounds
time.
Like some of my family. Yeah.
Oh, well, and it's I'll never forget my dad picked me up for my first shift and I had been in the office. Someone said to me, hey, do you have any homework or anything? You can go ahead and do. And I thought, great, I've got a book report. Take out my book.
Oh, God.
My dad comes to pick me
up.
We fire people. And I was like, okay, now I get it. And then I was fired.
I can picture your dad.
Yeah. And then I was fired for coming home late for curfew. And that's when the whole family business, the boundaries start to get a little bit blurred.
It gets complicated.
Yeah, it gets complicated.
But you've climbed the ranks on your own and you're at the top for a reason. You've demonstrated your ability. And publicly, you're also a very good advocate for the company. Like you are now, I think I read that you're one of Toronto's top 10 Twitter influencers. Who knew?
I think, I probably, at the height of all of the Uber sort of taxi war situation, I mean, Twitter has been a really, really useful tool. Yeah. Anytime that something's come up that is very concerning or that I think deserves some attention. And I will say too, I mean, I have not always been the professional businesswoman on Twitter. I call out by name and say things that, would, my mother
little
would
below
not
the
approve
belt.
Of.
Yeah, that's okay.
But that's what ends up getting us a chance to explain. And so it'll
gives
be
you a voice. Yeah.
That's right. Oh, hey, Kristine, I saw what you tweeted. Do you want to come on on the news and discuss it. Absolutely, I do. So
and that's a big part of, sorry to interrupt you, but that to me is a big part of your personality, is advocating for your drivers.
it's again, the best part of my job is the people that I get to know and that I get to work with. It's so interesting. We'll get calls all the time. Hey, do you want to move your call center to another country? We'll manage it. No.
Yeah. No, thank you.
Yeah, no thanks. And it's, getting to know these drivers and understanding what they've been through and, trying to, the vast majority of taxi drivers are immigrants to this country.
Yeah.
And, if you imagine that a person who would come and start a life over, not speaking the language, let's just use that as the example.
Yeah.
Already that person is a hero.
Yeah.
Like what they have faced to get to where they are and get that taxi license and do the training and all of that. I mean, then to be so completely disregarded by the city that depends on them so much. I just really, I used to have red hair anyway. I'm not even sure what color this is anymore, but people used to think I was
washed it for you,
right.
cleansed it of any life. No, your hair looks great.
And that used to be the, oh, she's a redhead. She's, fiery redhead. But it,
what a great stereotype.
Yeah. But
it's interesting though, like it goes back to what we talked about. We have these really strong immigration policies. I think we brought in 1.2 million new Canadians into the city last year. Mm-hmm. I'm a huge believer in immigration. Right. But then it's again, the left hand isn't supporting the right hand. It's this really conflicted position.
Yeah, if you're not going to support the people who are coming here, and not even, there's no monetary support. Your taxi service has never appeared on your tax bill. Yeah. There's not been anything, it's never cost the city anything. And what they continue to do is create a regulatory environment that makes it almost impossible to succeed or,
I remember when licenses lost their value.
Oh my gosh. But, we have drivers who are retiring now, for example, Peter, and he called me the other day. He's like, that's it. I'm not replacing my car. Oh. I'm 75 years old. I've put my kids through university. I have a house, and so they're, there's
some beautiful stories.
That's right. There are beautiful stories. It's harder now though. It's harder now. And they continue to try to make it more difficult. And so I can't help but speak out about it.
Advocate. Yeah. Okay. We're going to switch gears. So when we met, I was married. I'm very much not now.
Right.
But you are married to a man that you met when you were he was 15?
I think we probably met somewhere in the late teens, early teens. I don't know. But yeah, young.
Yes.
Young.
I'm a huge fan. Can I say his name?
Yes, of course you can.
I'm a huge fan of Nathan's. He's an incredible human being and father and friend.
He's the greatest.
He works for fire services.
That's right.
He's a hero.
You've
been married for how many years now?
22 years this year in September.
Smokes.
22 years. Yeah, it's wild to actually say that. I can't believe it. But yeah, we started dating. We knew each other as teens. He hitchhiked up to a camp that I was at, and we met there. But proximity, the geography. He was not living in Toronto, and
he's a younger man.
He's a couple of years.
Yeah.
Yes. That's
well
true.
Done.
Thank you. And we ran into each other. It's the crazy story. Well, he worked for Bell Canada at the time, and he worked as a firefighter. I didn't know he was a firefighter when we reconnected. I was in the Tim Hortons outside of our office, and all these guys from Bell Canada used to sit there, and a friend from work and I would go in and go, don't look over there, they're all staring, kind of thing. This sort of like, we were kids. It felt like maybe I was, 20-something, 23 years old. Yeah, oh my gosh. Right. And he ran out into the parking lot after me. And I went back to my mom at work and I said, I'm going to dress up for work now. Nathan Hubbard is at the Tim Hortons. So fine, I'll dress up if you want.
Oh, that's so cute. From that day to your wedding day, how long?
We started dating. It was about a year.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, it wasn't a mistake. 22 years later.
I knew right away, actually. I'd said to my mom, it was pretty early on. I said, if he asks, and I was the person who was, I'm never getting married, never having kids. That's not for me. And then it was like, hey, Mom, by the way, if he asks, I'm going to say yes.
I'm all in.
I'm in. Yeah. I'm totally in. And yeah, we were, I think, 6 months after we started dating, 9 months after we started dating, we were engaged. 3 months later, we were married or something like that. Some kind of crazy. Yeah.
I've seen the wedding pictures. You were both babies when you got married.
Babies.
Yeah.
Yeah. We look like we were about 12 years old.
Yeah,
Little.
so good. That's so good.
Yeah.
So what advice, like 22 years, you guys still go out, just the two of you all the time. You have a ton of fun together. You're actually like best friends, I'd say.
I would say that. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we are best friends. I mean, you know, I don't know if you're going to ask if I have some advice or any kind of insight.
No.
I don't.
I was going to. Yeah.
I don't really. I mean, it's, you know, he works 24-hour shifts.
Yeah.
So we're not together all the time.
Yeah.
And when he comes home from work, he's exhausted.
Yeah.
You know.
But he always gets up and does stuff.
He always gets up and does stuff. Yeah. He, you know, I don't know what it is. Yeah. When it comes to all the things you hope, you know, yard work, in the house work, you know, taking care of kids,
stuff, cooking, all of it.
All of it. And I don't know if it's, you know, he's been a very, very hard worker. I think he started working construction when he was like 14 or 15 years old. Yeah. And he moved out of home pretty early. He was about 16 and had 3 jobs while he was still in high school. So he's a guy. And when we first got married, he was working waterproofing basements.
Oh, that's a dirty job.
Yeah. So he was going between the fire hall and the construction site, and I'd come home and wonder if he'd even been to the house, you know, in 4 days. So he's a hard worker.
I would say from an outsider's perspective, watching you two and watching how you interact, I would say that what I think makes your marriage so great is you have so much respect for each other. Or you seemingly have so much respect for each other.
Absolutely. I just like him so much. I just like him. I mean, I love him, but I just enjoy him so much. I just think, you know, and it's not been perfect. So let's be clear. It's not been, too. He's so cute. He's kind of cute. Yeah, he's very cute. But, you know, it's not been perfect all along. We've gone through our rough patches. I mean, you know, it's work, but it seems to be now, I will say, when the girls are at the age they're at, and, you know, I think we feel, you know, we're a little bit more comfortable in our situation and our, I don't know, as you get older, maybe you become...
Life is a bit easier.
Yeah, life is a bit easier. And I just feel, even just in my own skin, maybe more comfortable. I just think, it's just going to keep getting better from here. And it's actually a really exciting
What
thing.
a great feeling.
Yeah, it's
I'm looking at 2024 and I'm like, oh, I hope it doesn't get worse.
Well, I mean, he came home from work from his 24-hour shift yesterday morning, and I was on my way to work just not being able to wait until I got back home again.
Oh,
yeah. So it's
nice.
Yeah. And it's not always been that way all the time, but we're just in a place. And for the last few years, he's the best.
That's so good.
That's all.
I count him as a good friend too, and I'm super grateful for his friendship. Mm-hmm. Okay, so our girls, as they embark on their lives, their independent lives, so you will have no kids living at home come September.
One right after the other.
I'll have one at home still.
It's bonkers.
What do you what do you worry about when you think about your kids? Are there things happening in the world that make you worry about your kids' ultimate success or safety or no?
No, I don't. You know, I thought my oldest daughter is out on the East Coast.
Yeah.
And when she was leaving, I guess I left her. We took her out, helped her, you know, move into residence, all of that. And I felt like I was leaving a piece of my body in that place when we came back. And I had a really, really, really hard time with it.
I do recall.
Yeah, it was really not easy. And not for fear. It was completely selfish.
Yeah.
And I don't know how else to say it, but I missed her so deeply. But now, you know, she came home the first time and, okay, you're the same. Great.
Yeah, perfect.
And then all of a sudden I was fine, right? It was just that first, like the unknown, the anticipation of it, the anxiety of what it was going to be like. But frankly, we're FaceTiming every day.
Are
and
you?
Yeah,
you guys are so close.
Yeah, and I know it'll be the same with Sarah. Like she's going to be, you know,
maybe they'll all end up in the same place.
Yeah, wouldn't it be amazing?
Yeah.
And, you know, Rachel will have a place and they can all stay. And I just said to her, I sort of said, you know, if you go out there, you know, you're in residence, anytime you want, you just go crawl in bed with your sister at her house.
Oh, that's so nice.
Yeah. So I kind
I'm
of...
going to tell Mimi that too.
Yeah, exactly. Literally. Yeah. So I just, I don't have that kind of fear. I think it's the same kind of fear parents have had forever. I don't dwell on things like that. I don't really have, again, it sounds terrible. I don't have time for that.
Yeah, no, but I
don't make time for it.
I think something that I've noticed lately when I go into rooms of people, and something that's important to me, is I want my kids to feel joy. You know, I don't want their days just to be days that come and go.
Right.
so I don't know how to create that. I feel there's so much pressure on kids and so much more pressure than we had.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
Well, that made me nervous. I mean, there were moments, the whole university application process as an example, or exam time at the end of the year. There were times I was like, how can I relieve this stress? Like, you just kind of want to take it from them and but you can't.
Do you remember our lives being stressful like that at that age? I don't. I was just doing bad things at that age.
Think we don't remember.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I just think, there's that example people use. You have a kid and it's the craziest experience of your life and then you go ahead and do it again.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's because we just don't remember.
Mother Nature forces us to forget. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think too, like, my biggest concern was, how are my kids going to live here? How are they going to buy a house here? How are they going to, and I just don't know if that's in the cards for them. And I'm just happy. Maybe they'll just have to move home and that's fine too.
Well, and I would say the bigger question is, do they want to live here?
Do they want to live here?
My kids don't want to live in Toronto right now.
I think both of my kids do. I mean, I think Rachel being out where she is now, she really enjoys sort of this, slower pace of the East Coast and the small town. And that's why I took them both out there to see the school in the first place. But I do think ultimately, for now, today, they want to come back and live here. But
interesting. All three of my kids would say, probably wouldn't live in Toronto.
Where, for example?
I mean, we'd have to ask them. Well, Declan, Declan wants to live next to an ocean.
Yes.
So that rules out Toronto. Well, a hot ocean, like a warmer ocean.
Oh, yes. Hey, well, I mean, I guess, if I was given the choice, yes, I would too.
Exactly.
I would too.
Right? And I think Mimi probably wants to live in Europe.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
I know, and I don't know about Pippa. But yeah, I think that they all kind of crave change. So when we look at Toronto, because we both live here and have lived here for a long time, do you look at the city and think, oh, we've got a problem with X and X? Is there anything that you look at and you think this isn't sustainable for our city or this will be an issue for us in time?
I think, our public transit, the way it's going is just not, it needs to be built up and it seems to be slowly deteriorating. And the concern for me, is that is not sustainable. A city needs to have a healthy public transit system. And I hope that this is something that they're working on. I mean, we hear that they're working on it. I hope to see that. But, again, the housing situation is not. I mean, if you can't work in a restaurant, for example, and live in the city you work in, I mean, somebody's got to do that job and they have to be able to live here to do it.
Yeah. And it's not even just hospitality workers. It's nurses, it's teachers. It's like all of the fabric of our city. Yeah.
That's it. And I think, remember being a nurse, being, a teacher, they're such hard jobs. They're such important jobs. And the idea that someone's going to have to drive an hour to get in, and we're going to lose, so many great kind of candidates, so many people who would do so well by our kids. And I just, that concerns me. That definitely concerns me.
Yeah, I agree. I think that the city, we don't have the policies in place to support the people, the fabric that we need in our city.
I think, there are so many quick answers, I think, for some of them, and good ideas have been put forward, but good ideas just they just seem to fizzle.
Yeah.
By the time it makes its way
to the actual policy. Yeah. Great when it comes out of the mouth. But then,
That's right.
Woo. And then talk to me about the Cosmic Cab, because I've been in it.
Yes, Akbar. The Cosmic Cab is...
All right, first tell people what it is. I know what it is because I've experienced it, but...
Well, I think most people experienced it when we were on Undercover Boss Canada.
Oh.
Yeah.
I don't know about that.
Oh, yeah. That was actually around the time when we first met.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so Akbar participated. He's the funniest, most outgoing, has his taxi, Cosmic Cab, is completely decked out with, toys for kids and the lights inside and magazines and candy and,
It's a whole experience.
It's a whole experience. Amazing. He's got his sort of
disco ball
vibe and the music. And you know what? He was at his height with that several years ago. He has toned it down a little. I think he has, As he's gotten older, I think it's just harder to maintain. And he bought a new car, so I'm just not sure how much he wants
to move over.
To deck it out, yeah.
Does he, and that was a completely self-driven initiative.
That's right. There are quite a few really interesting individuals. I mean, I don't know if you've heard, there's like a taxi driver who loves to ask people historical trivia. And if they get it right, you get a free ride.
Oh,
you know,
my
sort of
God.
along the lines of like the cash cab.
Yeah.
Which is now back on TV, which I don't know if that's besides the
haven't
point.
seen it,
but
yeah.
he's, you know, there are a lot of really unique individuals who are, because you know what, a taxi driver, you like to talk to people. That's
you're a
what the
people
job
person.
was. You're a people person. And so, you know, there are times when I can get into a taxi and the driver doesn't know, and I don't say, and maybe it's dark, and you know, it's kind of that.
Yeah.
And they're just talking away about, I was with a couple of girlfriends the other night, and we ended up, it's about kids and university, and his son is in, you know, he's an engineer in Waterloo. And
Amazing.
yeah. So, you know, I think there is something about a taxi driver anyway. They just do enjoy talking to people.
Yeah.
It's part of the job.
I think that's fair. And how many drivers do you have now?
We probably work with about 2,000 drivers right now, a fleet of about 1,300 vehicles. Yeah. And it's, you know, we have not, people talk about Uber as if it's the worst thing that ever happened. It's really not.
Yeah.
COVID was a huge,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, COVID took a big, you know, sort of a hard toll on a lot of people that I worked with. And our fleet were probably still about 700 vehicles. So that would represent about 1,000 drivers.
Wow.
Less than what we were, which, you know, for better or worse, is what it is. But you know, that was the hardest part.
And they just left the industry completely.
Yeah, you know, people got sick. People, you know, 10 drivers at the airport died from COVID, and right at the beginning. And so people moved on to other things, you know, a lot moved into the trucking industry, or, you know, industries that kind of were looking for more support.
Yeah.
You know, we were told on March, I guess it was, this was at the 13th. I don't remember the day. You know, you're an essential service.
Oh, yeah.
Well, we'll see about that, because if no taxi drivers are on the road, then we have no service.
Yes, exactly.
And I didn't know if we'd even open the doors. But 300 or so vehicles were logged onto the platform. And it was like,
Amazing.
here we go.
Amazing.
Yeah, it was.
I remember that time. It was a very stressful time.
I can't. And with Nathan's job as a firefighter, and I was in at work every day, it was a different experience, I think, than a lot of people had.
100%. I was working too.
Yeah.
You'll recall we were deemed an essential service, which people do have to buy and sell houses, but they could have used a different term maybe.
Yeah. Right.
So what do you see? Can I ask this? Where do you see yourself in 10 years?
I actually have no idea.
No?
No, not at all. And that does not scare me for some reason.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I don't have an answer either. If someone would ask me.
I don't really care.
Yeah.
You know, as long as, if my family is healthy and, you know, people around me are happy, really, if that, you know, I'm happy to go to the grocery store. I don't really care where I am.
Really? That's good.
Yeah, I don't. It's a really interesting time in my life, with the kids the age that they are, and after, you know, soccer 1,200 times a week and all the things, you know, you're running around, and he's working 24 hours, and it's, you know, kind of bananas all the time. Things have really, you know, I find myself being able to take a deep breath more
Breathe
often.
now.
Yeah, and so I just, like, nothing really. It's just kind of like, yeah.
And what do you do for fun now then? I mean, I kind of know, but
So I like to go out with friends, and I like to go out with Nathan. And
Yeah.
we, you know, I love sort of a spontaneous, unexpected sort of night out. I love a good meal. I don't need a whole lot. I just,
Yeah.
you know, I'd love to be able to walk somewhere, have something to eat, have maybe a bottle of wine, not to myself.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's just, I like to stroll, and I like to just kind of see where the day takes us. And I think actually that might happen tonight, because it's so beautiful outside.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. And, you know, Nathan's
and he just
off.
came off 24 hours. Yeah.
Well, that was yesterday. So he's, yeah.
and you guys need to get ready for Cancun.
I know. Grad trip. How did this happen?
I don't know. I also don't know how I have a 17-year-old when I'm only 28, but we're going to figure that
This
out
is
later.
it. I ask myself every day how that's possible. Yeah.
I think we're going to have fun. It's going to be a little bit debaucherous, I'm sure,
I have no doubt.
for our children.
Well, and St. Patrick's Day as well, we're there, right?
Oh, is it?
I think Nathan has a shirt that says something like, "Shut up, liver, you're going to be fine."
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll be great.
Well, I'm ready. I'm ready for this trip.
I think it'll be fun.
hope that our girls survive it.
I think they will. You know what? Our girls are pretty good.
They're tough, too.
Yeah, they're tough. I'm not too, and also will be there.
Yes. That's why we'll be there.
This is why we'll be there.
Yeah.
And I just don't think I'd be able to not be there. I don't.
Yeah.
And she was 16 when it first came up.
I know they're different now than when we signed up for the trip.
They are. And actually, it's funny. It's like, no, I'm fine.
I would say the one thing that I really love about our girls cohort is in that entire grade, everyone is connected somehow. They're kind to each other.
Yes.
It's different than our generation, where I think that they have bred a really beautiful energy in that cohort.
Well, and I think, my daughters are only a year apart in school.
Yeah.
So Rachel was in grade 12. Her cohort didn't have that kind of connection.
Yeah.
And I know with, Sarah and Mimi, this latest, I guess it was sort of an end of school year kind of rally, kind of party. They were all crying.
Oh, yeah.
And it's not even, graduation yet. So I think it's going to be an emotional
Year up.
end of year.
Here we go. At least they've got us.
I know, that's it.
Yeah.
And then, I think they'll all stay connected. I mean, that is, I guess, the power of social media.
Yeah. That's one of the silver linings.
That's right. You don't lose that contact or that connection with people.
Yeah.
So
Well, thank you for coming on, Christine.
it's my pleasure.
It.